instead of treating the website like the last thing on my agenda, I treat it as the first thing on my agenda whenever that's possible. It's not possible in some situations, obviously. I try to write for the web first. How does that help me as an MMJ? It gives me that breathing time to sit down and compose what I've got, what this story is about, what's the lead. Well, I just wrote a headline. There's a question I forgot to ask. There's an element I forgot to get, and if I write that story early, I've got time to recover. So that's become a very helpful thing to me. I'll try to write that web story as soon as I'm finished with the key interviews or have new key information. The final point on this is that we are all digitally competitive, and if you don't post to your website early, Google doesn't see you. And if Google doesn't see your website, it doesn't exist. And it's in all of our interest to contribute to these websites because, frankly, my company just signed a deal to, along with a bunch of our other broadcast owners in the country, to standardize delivery of news on the handheld. So it is all about the web. I know we're serving a TV product every day, but we got to think about it early. And that's my preach.
This is Dave at KSDY, and we're taking a approach to kind of do incremental web updates throughout the day, sort of an advancer before even going out of the newsroom, and then updates throughout the day, and then we're posting the finished final version at the end of the day. So we have continuous updates in that continuous news model that we're using.
You make it sound easy. Were there challenges in the beginning to overcome?
Oh, well, yeah, there's still challenges. I mean, obviously, there's the pressure to get out to the scene, Scott was talking about, but so we have to constantly remind ourselves, well, we got to feed the web first. So, yeah, it's a daily challenge to stay on top of it.
Yeah. I'll say I have found, it's Ariel Wessler, reporter at KSBY, I have found that at times we have to write a VOSOT version of our package for the day. And when I do my web update, oftentimes that's the VOSOT because you've got the facts, you've got most of your information. So I will say that tends to save time. You don't really have to, you're not writing the same thing over and over.
That's a good point. That sounds very efficient.
Scott, this is Galen. I was wondering where are you writing out in the field too and editing out in the field more often than not?
Yeah, almost always. And I recognize that all MMJs are not empowered this way, but I'm essentially, I've been given a laptop with broadband connectivity and editing capabilities. So once I leave that TV station, and many days like today, I don't even go in because I've been empowered with a vehicle. So I'm like a photographer with a take-home car, which is becoming less and less common in our business. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I stay in the field to finish the story. It's absolutely critical to me, and that goes to the get there first. I have to go to the story and then begin using the tools in my box to collect information in the same ways we always have. And I stay in the field as long as possible because, frankly, when you're shooting and recording, it takes additional time. So I try not to block time in my day to, do all the logistics of getting back to the TV station to produce. I'm either angling to try to get a live truck, or I'm going to produce in the car on my laptop computer and edit. And I will either Wi-Fi that final product in, or snap feed it in on the broadband card, or I'll meet a live truck and then feed it. The days I end up going back to the television station are days I end up burning an awful lot of time going from point A to point B.
Now, do you tend
when you send your packages back over the internet, how long do you find it taking? Because that's fair. When we try that, sometimes it'll take an hour or more to burn and download, and we're still playing with the different settings. But how long do you find it generally takes?
Well, that's function, thankfully, that I don't have to worry about. The setup that we have at this Gannett property in Washington is pretty good. I can feed about a minute and 30 or a minute 15 package, generally in 2 to 3 minutes. But you got to remember your feed time is in relationship to how much you compress the package and how much the technology back TV station can manage that and make it an arable product. So a lot of that's out of my control. But I'm generally able to feed a package in 5 minutes or so. And as you may notice, I'm talking to you live now outside, from the inside of the vehicle while I'm driving. We use, like many TV stations do, we use Skype technology or technologies like this literally to do live shots in a similar fashion that I'm doing right now. So I often present live without a live truck. I'll be wholly a one-man band for the entire day, including the live wrap at the end of the day. So it's what you're asking me is a technology question, and that does sort of lay in the hands of the folks who are buying the toolboxes for you. I have one tip on that, and that is recently I had to go down to Haiti, and all the toolbox got thrown out the window. Nothing works in Haiti like you would expect it to. I ended up, because we couldn't get our FTP sites to accept the IP address from where I was, I ended up putting my packages up on a file sharing site. The one I use is called MediaFire, but there are many of them. And then the TV station would download the package and bring it in that way.
Hi, Scott.
I got you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Quinn from Tucson. Just wondering, do you shoot stand-ups every day? And if you do, when you shoot them, what kind of stand-ups are you shooting?
Unfortunately, I don't rise to the level on any given day as Joe Little does. Many of you have seen Joe Little's tapes. Yes, I do stand-ups every day. Typically, I set the tripod up in front of some activity and knock something out. So it's pretty standard. The folks I work for want to establish the presence of the reporter in the story, so that's what we do. My typical day is I'm going to be assigned something that's going to end up being a package or live shot at the end of the day. I'm serving the evening shows, 5 through 7 p.m. I'll produce a package/live wrap for 5 o'clock. That's going to have a stand-up in it or a live in and out. I'll generally break that down and rewrite it as a BOSOT or a live BOSOT for the 6 o'clock show. And then typically I have to shoot an intro stand-up for a further cut-down short package that goes at 7. So I'm basically doing 3 edits on every story. And in addition to the stand-ups that are going to be used there, I'm often shooting a stand-up tease. So I'm busy with the stand-ups, and I tend to try to knock them out all at once. And that's a pretty big challenge. That's a pretty significant challenge for me. A lot of the lessons we've learned in our careers about creative stand-ups are difficult to exercise every day because a lot of times you're down to the end of the game and you just got to get them knocked out.
Any other questions on stand-ups?
Yeah, I have a question about the stand-ups, Bob. This is Steve Adamson. I'm with KSBY TV. And Scott, do you find that when you go to select some or the stories that you go to when you're doing the stand-ups, I mean, there are days, don't you find that sometimes a stand-up just doesn't really fit the story, and there's certain stories that stand-ups work better in, and therefore you can kind of eliminate the need to do them some days just depending upon the story that you're doing?
Well, it's true that I think most stories you could do without a stand-up. You could certainly tell the story without it.